Anime. What is anime? Well, this season, anime is pretty good. This season has it all. Good anime, bad anime, really stupid anime. So let's get this party started. I'm really cool, and this is your one-stop shop for good opinions on seasonal anime. Platinum End? More like Platinum Edge. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know, man. This show is horrible, but in a kind of fun way. The exposition is clumsy, it's over the top to an intrusive degree, but I'll probably watch it every week anyway. Mieruko-chan? More like... I don't have a clever joke for this one. It's just so horny, and I don't really understand why. None of the fan service is really even all that appealing to me, except for this guy. This guy does it for me.
Whatever. I know what I want.
But he turns out to be fucking evil. This one picks up after episode 2. Probably worth the watch. Speaking of horny, why did an ASMR anime get made? No thanks. I'll stick to Amouranth streams. I can't believe I left that in the script. You know how some shows are just obviously propaganda? Like how Gate was written to make the Japanese military look super cool? Well, I think Sakugan may have been written by the 9-year-old lobby because half the first episode is dedicated to calling the dad a loser over and over again for not wanting his 9-year-old child to explore the world and fight monsters. The show is gorgeous and detailed. I've seen it compared to Made in Abyss, but come on. Do you remember in Made in Abyss when you had this insane snake monster and it's hand animated? Yeah, well in Sakugan, the mechs are CGI.
Remember when the mecha genre only used CG during budget-demanding, combat-intensive scenes and actually took the time to draw their mechs instead of dragging and dropping a 3D model onto a 2D plane during, say, instances of casual conversation?
The monsters are CGI, and they're identical to top it off. Why bother constructing such a beautiful world if you're gonna litter it with awful-looking CGI mechs and monsters? Join Mushoku and Tensei as they travel through the lands of I didn't watch the first season. Between this and Ganbare Doki-chan, dudes with an office woman fetish are absolutely living this season. Did you know the hero tasked with saving the world wears high heels? Just seems impractical, honestly. This one's the resident anime with an annoying and overly long title of the season, and you don't even have to ask, because of course it's based on a light novel. A few minutes in, I was ready to write about how it's generic and boring and ugly. It's all of those things, but there's also some nice stuff going on under the surface. Don't expect a masterpiece, but if you want a slow-paced show with some nice music, this one's got you covered. I will also give it credit for not being an isekai, regardless of how low a bar that really is. There's some nice theming about finding your place in the world, even if you aren't some great hero. The moments when the show focuses on the hero's party are always bad, and it seems like they might creep up more as it continues. Is it worth your time? I won't go that far, but if you've got nothing else to do, it won't be an offensive waste of time. At least when nothing happens in slow life, it's on purpose. People will earnestly tell you they hate school and being lectured at, and then watch stuff like this that's all exposition and no payoff. Is this gonna be on the test? At times it will threaten to become interesting, and honestly my patience has run thin. Oh, it's also an isekai that doesn't advertise that fact, almost like it's embarrassed about being an isekai, which it should be. Speaking of embarrassing, this one's another isekai with a dumbass title. This show wants you to know that objectifying little girls is bad. It communicates this by murdering a bunch of aristocrats trying to buy little girls. Cool, I'm on board. I guess I should just ignore all the weird close-up cleavage shots of those very same little girls. Actually, this show is like super horny for young children, boys and girls. Gross. But if that wasn't enough to hook you, get a load of this very cool and not cringe line.
暗殺者に感情など必要ない。
Watch as the main character expertly brainwashes a girl
洗脳完了
by offering her food while she's starving. This show just takes itself way too seriously. Are we also not gonna comment on the morality of a grown man in a child's body having his first time taken by a 10-year-old?
素敵な初体験をありがとう
I'm not even sure if any of this is meant to be fan service. Honestly, I don't know if that would make it worse or not. The OP slaps, but I actually feel gross watching this show, which is a pretty impressive accomplishment considering how much of a degenerate I am. Oh, did I mention this is one of the most popular shows of the season? If you told me this was hentai, I'd believe you. It looks like garbage, it's barely animated, and a girl is shoving her tits in the main character's face within like 30 seconds of it beginning. It may be trash, but at least it knows it's trash. Shinka no Mi is so blatantly about pushing low quality fan service in your face that the main character is barely even on the poster. I also probably don't have to tell you this, but light novel, isekai, yeah, I figured. Now, with all that said, this is honestly one of my favorites of the season, and it just barely didn't make the cut for best shows of the season. I don't know if I can recommend this in good conscience to anyone else, but if you're a connoisseur of trash, maybe check it out, especially if you can make it past the first episode. This is like junk food for the lonely weeb soul. I know it's not good for me, but I'm gonna eat it anyway. This show seems to have pretty much flown under the radar, which is a bummer because it's a delight to watch. The right-leaning members of the audience will definitely love this show, because if you're auth-right, it's about a trad wife, and if you're lib-right, she's 14. Either way, it's got you covered. Whatever Funimation paid to license this was way too much. Oh no! Wee woo, big boy zone alert! Those other shows, Baby Time, Amateur Hour. Now we're getting into the best shows of the season. It's also called the Big Boy Zone because you're not allowed to cry about placements in the comments. Tact Op Destiny. Ugh. Anime, can I just take you aside for a moment? What the fuck is this name? Who would even think to name it something like this? And you know what the worst part is? This show is great. A collaboration between one of the best studios to ever do it, Madhouse, and also MAPPA, which made Sakamichi 7 years ago and has been aggressively average ever since. Like, Demo said this 6 years ago.
I think I like MAPPA. They're like the most okay studio. They still haven't worked on anything better than Sakamichi though.
And it's still true today, but that's not the point. The last major collaboration between studios that I can remember didn't turn out all that great. And that one had a stupid fucking name too, except I dropped that one after one episode because I'm never wrong about anime. Barring another disaster though, it's looking pretty good. But how do I even go about recommending a show with this title to my non-weeb friends? Weebs really are the most oppressed class. That being said, if you can push past the title, you'll be greeted to a show with thick atmosphere, gorgeous animation and character designs, a solid sense of humor, and some interesting light mystery. Seems like the episodes animated by MAPPA are gonna take a bit of a dip in animation and art quality, but not enough that it ever stops looking great on average. The manga for this has been hyped up forever, and this adaptation is being done by OLM, who produced Odd Taxi, so this shit was obviously going to be good. But I didn't expect it to be this good. The chalkboard scene is probably the best scene of the season, if not of the year. It is hilarious and beautiful. You're probably already watching it if you keep up with seasonal anime at all, and for good reason. But, fuck you, Netflix. How are you just gonna not bother translating what's written on the chalkboard? I have a Netflix account, and I'm still pirating this shit out of spite. And, you know, so I can actually read what's on the screen. Can I be honest with you? I'm a bit of an idiot. I have very little ability to follow what is happening in this show. It is fast-paced and based in not only history, which I already don't know shit about, but Japanese history. So why is it on the list? Have you seen what's on your screen right now? This show is a work of art. It's textured like a canvas, and for good reason. Every frame looks like a painting. Underneath all the history and complex relations in the show are a number of simple stories. Not meeting your family's expectations, the difficulties of being a woman, particularly in historical Japan, the problems with tradition, and the desire to break that tradition, even when it feels wrong. This show is what Sunny Boy tried to be, a complex mesh of ideas hiding a much simpler story underneath. I don't know why I was mean to Sunny Boy there. It didn't really deserve it. Sunny Boy was fine. Not as good as Heiki, though. Naoko Yamada is a genius, and you're missing out if you aren't watching it. The premise for this one is pretty shallow, even for a comedy. It's literally just about a vampire who's weak to everything, so he turns to dust all the time. I expected it to get stale after a few episodes, but every joke in this series manages to land. So how do you take a shallow premise and make a show that continues to be funny after one episode? Well, you introduce a bunch of unique and interesting characters that play off one another incredibly well. You can also continue expanding the world and adding increasingly silly rules, while a straight man is forced to deal with the consequences of those rules. Every episode builds on the last, expanding the world and, in turn, the joke material. I haven't laughed this hard in a long time. This show also contains one of the most elaborate your mom jokes I've ever seen. Imagine being one of the humorless morons that gave this show a low score. On top of that, it features the first and second best girls of the season. Eat your heart out, Comey fans. Every once in a while, a show will come along that has visuals that stop people from getting into it, despite that show receiving high praise. These are what we call IQ tests. Mob Psycho 100, Ping Pong, The Tatami Galaxy, Kill La Kill. These are some of the best shows you can watch, yet you have people who refused to watch them until all the high IQ weebs shepherded them into watching a show they were obviously going to love. This season, that show is Osama Ranking. The first episode started out strong, but a little slow, and then episode 2 comes in and punches you in the face. That's the only explanation I have for these tears coming out of my grown man eyeballs. Just kidding, I've never cried watching anime. But I got damn close. I've not seen a show go from promising to AOTY material so quickly, maybe ever? Don't believe me? Well, how about these people? Oh, with that much praise, it must be pretty popular. Wrong. Stupid. This show has less attention than Shinka no Mi. Oh, you wanna know what it's about? Then watch the fucking show! This is my uncontested #1 anime of the season. If you aren't watching it, but you're watching some bullshit like the Assassin Isekai,
Come over there, I'm gonna punch you in the balls.